Hi everyone, my name is Laura Friend, and I want to cover just a few points of things that I learned in our readings this week. In chapter 1, as I read that, it was something that I remembered reading in my Family 150 class. I'm sure that you have all read the same thing. And I thought about it and realized that this chapter really sets the foundation for the family life education premise, for the program, for our major and what we're here, what we're doing, and what we're trying to accomplish. So I thought that was pretty significant. I wanted to cover a couple of approaches in this chapter. They talked about the expert approach, the facilitator, the critical inquirer, the collaborator, the interventionist, and the eclectic approach. And of all of those, I really feel that collaborator is the one that I identify most with. I've had some experience with it before in teaching at a music workshop. But the one that I would really like to hone my skills in and get better at is the eclectic approach, because I feel that being able to incorporate some of the elements of the other approaches would be really important in a family life education setting and would help me be a more effective family life educator. They talked about the importance of developing a working philosophy of family life education, and this principle reminded me of a therapy program a loved one is enrolled in. This loved one is required to write down every day why they are fighting for change in their lives, and it's very powerful. Writing things down, especially writing down our beliefs, our values, our philosophies around those values, helps commit those values into our hearts. It helps them become a part of who we are. It reminds us of why we're doing what we're doing, and there is power behind it. They talked about beliefs about family. And I believe that we know the nature of the family. We know that it's divinely appointed, and this will affect all aspects of how we deliver our family life education. I believe that the purpose of family life education is to help educate and strengthen families against challenges that might otherwise threaten to destroy them. I believe that the content that we deliver should be scholarly based because it lends credibility to family life educators, and it ensures correct principles are taught and relieves educators of the burden of proof, because it's really hard to argue with sound research and statistics. I believe that the process of learning is best accomplished in a full family group so that the principles taught can be incorporated together and everyone in that family is on the same page. Chapter 2 talked a lot about designing family life education programs. And I thought it was interesting that right now we are working on designing our program. We have a project due for our class at the end of the week for our family relations program of how our program is going to be structured. And so we're already following some of these steps. Right now we're going to be working in the primary level, just helping families and individuals strengthen relationships before serious issues develop. We're not here to counsel. We may be working with some who are at a secondary level, that we're helping people that are already at risk and maybe help them develop strategies that would prevent more serious issues from developing. I doubt that we will be working with anyone at a tertiary level. Those are for families already facing severe challenges and they need therapy as well. So right now, we are being required to do appropriate research, develop sound lesson plans, meet participants' needs, and evaluate our programs. And as we follow these steps, we will be successful in our family life education. Chapter 16 talks a lot about marketing, and it's really important to effectively market a program. And I had an experience with this when I was invited to teach a couple of times at Portland's Regional Music Workshop. In the beginning, the marketing for this workshop was not very successful until the committee had participants fill out surveys about what classes they wanted. And as they began to deliver classes tailored around what those people had asked for, more people started coming. Now the workshop committee needs to do a better job at honing in on positioning their product, as we learned in our readings, or answering the question, what's in it for me? A lot of times they just put an announcement in ward bulletins that says, hey, it's the Portland Music Workshop, come and learn more about music. And people, that they're not connecting with that. They don't understand, why do I need to come to a music workshop? How could it benefit me in my home with my little children? How can help my life. So they need to do better at really addressing what's in it for the people that they want to draw in for the workshop. They also talked about, in chapter 18, improving family life education practices. And the first thing they talked about was professionalization. And as I read about professionalization, it reminded me of the blank look I get when I tell people my major. It's kind of like this. And they kind of do a little nod, like, I'm going to act like I know what you're talking about. But they honestly look at me like, what would you do with a marriage and family studies degree? And so I have to tell them, this will allow me to work in community settings and being a family life educator and what a family life educator is. And so this just emphasized to me the great need of getting this family life education more professionalized, getting it out there to the public so that people start recognizing as soon as you say marriage and family studies, oh, that's so important, that's really valuable, and they see the value in it. They also talked about, as I read about that, I thought to myself, how can I be more proactive about my work then? What can I do to help professionalize this? And I decided that I wanted to find out company programs for supporting family life education amongst employees. There's several companies in the area that I could go to and find out what programs they might have in place, or if they would be interested in starting a program where I could come in and deliver family life education to their employees. I could partner with other family life educators in the area to market and host classes for the community at local schools. And I could contact legislators about local policies affecting families. Also in my area, I need to be really careful because I am in a very diverse area. There's a lot of blended families and also same-gendered parents' families. There are some underserved families where we have a lot of minorities in the area who probably need family life education and are not getting it. So I need to be aware of what those audiences are and how to best address them. And lastly, I wanted to cover Appendix A. In Appendix A, we learned several principles, and I just wanted to touch on a few of them. One of them was the empathy. This made me think of a live therapy session that we were able to view in my Family 360 class. Brother Higgins, in that session, was meeting with a family that they were very concerned about, their 17-year-old son. And instead of attacking this boy, Brother Higgins showed him great empathy. And it really kind of opened the family's eyes and also the eyes of those who were viewing this as a group to what empathy can do for a person, to break down those walls. And it was a really powerful experience. I will never forget how critical it is to use empathy when working with others. They talked about the principle of agency, and we all know how important agency is. And that's a foundational principle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They talked about integrity, and this is something that I teach on a daily basis. I often remind my kids, you need to keep your word. You need to show integrity, or people will not trust you or respect you. And they talked about chaos. And this made me think of a video from Family 400 where Brother Gardner had 4 people come up and he had them stand inside a large Lycra tube. Lycra is like a swimming suit material. And then he had them slowly at first cross paths and then come back to each other, and those two going this way were doing the same thing, so that it was kind of this motion, and it got very fast because they were instructed to go faster, and eventually it broke down into chaos. And the point was that family systems, they experience chaos. There is nothing, one person's going to affect another, and it's not going to be perfect, and other people's choices will affect how other people react. And so we have to be sensitive to that as family life educators. Lastly, I wanted to close with the principle of legacy. And this principle, they talked about how important it is to not be focused on the self, to look outside and encourage the people that we're delivering our education to look outside of themselves and to find ways that they can serve within their families. And this made me think of Christ's quote in Matthew chapter 16, verse 25. And he said, "Whosoever shall save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall find it." So Christ lived by this principle. And I know that as we try to follow his example and we try to serve those around us by delivering family life education, that we will be more successful and more effective in our efforts. Thank you.